Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's March 21st, Wednesday. It's about 3 p.m. So it's kind of weird. I woke up today expecting snow, probably like a lot of people in Connecticut, but nothing there. And it got me thinking, you know, weather people, weathermen, meteorologists, whatever, they have the greatest job in the world. They could be wrong like 90% of the time, and they still have their jobs. It's crazy to me. Imagine, I don't know, being a doctor and totally diagnosing 90% of your patients with the wrong diagnosis and still having your job. It's crazy. But yeah, keep up the good work. So anyways, with that ran over, we're going to be talking more about the principles of singer. Yesterday we kind of went over a little bit of topics that cover inflection. We went over confidence, smiling a little bit. Hold on, let me figure out that spot for this. Yeah, there we go. What is going on? I'm charging my phone while I'm doing this, so there we go. Cool. Alright, so what else I got? So, yeah, we're going to be going over breath control today. Breath control is very important because 90% of the singing is confidence. And that other 10% is technique, which I believe is mainly breath control. All the other stuff that we cover are the details, but breath control, if you don't have that, you don't even have to worry about the other stuff because you're going to end up sounding like that kid in the wheelchair and Malcolm in the Middle, and you don't want that. So basically, when you're breathing, you want to be singing from your diaphragm. You don't want a lot of people breathe from up here taking shallow breaths, and that's not proper. You want to fill up your diaphragm area with air. So imagine a good tip would be, imagine there's a beach ball in your stomach and it's inflating as you take your breath in, and it starts from like the bottom of your lungs and it goes up from there instead of a shallow breath, which would be like more of the upper portion of your lungs. All right, so when you're writing songs, when you're writing melodies, it's a useful tip to really work in your breath, your moments to breathe, the rest between your cadence. So if you're a rapper, you should write with consciously knowing that you need to take breaths and rhythmically take breaths with the tempo of the song, so the breath is hitting on beat with the percussion or whatever else it may be. Let's see. Be confident when you're taking your breaths, a lot of artists that are starting off, I feel like they're a little timid when it comes to, they don't want the microphone to pick up their breath, and don't worry about that. I mean, if you have a weird breathing sound, I guess, like the engineer could always chop it out, or if you're working on it yourself, you could always just go in and cut it out or lower it in volume, whatever you have to do. But be confident when you're taking breaths. If you're not taking breaths in a song, it gets kind of weird, it's almost not human, we're all human here, hopefully. So when you're making music, don't really worry about that unless it's sounding annoying and it's taken away from the song. Then just edit it out. But be confident as you take your breaths. So even singers, breathing is going to be controlling that wave of air that is exiting your body. So a good tip is kind of picturing your voice in front of you. And picture a stream of air, a jet stream of air leaving your body. That kind of that helps me a lot when I'm singing. I like to picture sometimes, in Madden you have the field goal kicking or, the kickoff, and it has that meter that sways back and forth. You kind of want to get, a good singer will be hitting in the middle of that note. So that's like kicking a perfect field goal or, getting an awesome kickoff in Madden. And it's the same kind of idea, I guess, So one thing I like to do is, you want to picture singing in the middle of the note, and you're not wavering above it, below it, unless you're intentionally doing that. If you're intentionally doing it, that's one thing, and that's showing off your well-trained ear and your skill, all that. But otherwise, try to be hitting the middle of the note. That is going to also bring out the roundness that I was talking about in my prior videos. You want to be singing your vowels with a roundness to it. An O should sound like a round O, an A should sound like a round A, an I should sound like a round I, you know. Now the consonants, those are cool tools to use in your diction, the way you enunciate. So you can use the consonants as a percussion. So the S's, the T's, B's, P's, anything like that. You know, if you're a rapper, it's a good tip to kind of over exaggerate those as percussively. I don't know if that's a word, but I'm going to use it. So, you know, you get that percussive drum type sound from your enunciation that enhances the actual drum beat itself, the music. It makes you sound more confident. It makes you sound like, you know, not only are you're someone that knows what they're singing about and they believe what they're singing about, but its style, it adds richness to the tone, your timbre of your voice. So, you know, Kendrick Lamar is very good at that. A lot of the songs he uses his consonants in his flow as a percussive sound. Same with like an Eminem type. Tech Nine, especially Tech Nine, he's very technical. So if you listen to rap like that at all, and for a technical type of, you know, flow, anything like that, his delivery is amazing. So, you know, that's a good person to listen to as far as, you know, just to get an idea of what I'm talking about as an example. What else do I have that we talk about today? All right, so with singing too, you know, it's good to think of, and even rapping, but with singing, it's good to think about the envelope of your voice. And if you aren't too familiar with that, you can Google it, but the envelope of a sound is essentially made up these 4 parameters. I'm going to call them parameters. But it's attack, decay, sustain, and release, all right? Attack is basically how quick or slow the initial sound happens, all right? The decayness is like the fullness of the sound and how long that lasts. The sustain is essentially, once it gets past that point of decay, how long that rings out, right? And then the release is how quick or slow the actual sound will let go. So if you're using a tech, you know, you can hear it in people's voices when they're singing certain songs. They might have like especially like opera and stuff, they'll have more slower attack, swelling in with crescendo types with their voice. You know, it adds richness, it adds brightness, texture to the vocals. It makes it sound more human. It lets the vibrato ring out. Now that's one idea. Then you have more like, you know, heavy metal where the attack is right now. It's in your face. It's really quick. Franz from the band Attila, dude's got crazy vocals and dynamically too. He's awesome where he could be changing up his tone. Vocally being able to go from screaming to like more like talking type tones, all in the same recording, you know. And it's an impressive quality to have. You know, a lot of artists need to be paying attention to the detail that they could do with their own vocals. It's not just good enough to say your words out loud. You know, the greatest artists are all taking it to the next level by zooming in, essentially, you know, with the mind magnifying glass and seeing what their vocals are missing, and then they're chiseling it in, essentially making it, all right, I need to make my voice sound deeper, and I don't want to depend on plugins to make my voice sound deeper. I should just have a naturally deep voice. If that's what I'm going to do, if I have a higher pitched voice, then I should figure out how to make that the best tone I could possibly use. How can I get vibrato? How can I make it sound very natural? I mean, you listen to someone like Young Thug, he has like a higher tone. He's singing, rapping, singing in his head voice more, you know? So, and it's a really unique sound that he could produce with that, and his rhythm and his cadence, you know? And then you can listen to someone like Adele, who's totally opposite, but she still has like a bright, rich tone, and she still is doing the same things he is in a sense, but in a totally different fashion. It's still the same tools though, with breath control, confidence, inflection, rhythm, pocket, passion, all those qualities, you know? So it's just food for thought. Is there any more I'm going to go over for today? Yes. All right, cool. One more thing. Now, passion is so important with singing. You actually could be a great singer without having, great enough pitch or pocket if you have amazing passion. If your voice is so got so much character to it and it's so passionate, well, whatever the type of genre it is, that can override the other two. Now, some cool ideas, food for thought. If you have a problem or an issue of trying to get out more passion, or you feel kind of insecure about being vulnerable, or whatever the case may be, there's some kind of drills you can do on your free time to kind of help you get in that headspace. So if you're writing a personal song, a good tip is to actually kind of like close your eyes, picture that moment, picture what the room smells like, picture like whatever the scenario is, picture what the color, what's the vibe of the room, picture if there's people there, what do they look like, what are they wearing, are you having a conversation with them? Those are all good tricks. You kind of want to put yourself in that moment. Singing and acting aren't very different. I think they go kind of hand in hand. So if you have a certain type of image or a certain type of message you're trying to portray, you've got to figure out how to use your tone to convey that. So singing and talking are very similar. Singing should be as easy as talking. That's some of the best advice I've ever learned, was that singing should be as easy as talking. And if you're struggling with singing, then you're not doing it right. You're probably trying too hard. It could be a lot of different factors, but really remember that the singing and talking are supposed to be very easy. It's very similar. Singing and acting are very similar. So you got to get in that kind of mode, that vibe. If you're doing a hard rap song, then you got to get pretend you're on stage. Picture yourself on stage, or picture yourself in the moment of whatever the song's about. Act that out. Get pumped up, get fired up if that's the case. If it's a sad song, then still have fun singing the song, but make sure that you hit that type of tonality that will portray the correct tone message for that. So if it's a sad song, picture that sad moment, or a sad moment that brings that emotion out of you every time. That will help you, and over time, the more you do it, you'll develop that natural instinct. And you should, if you're doing it right, get over that possible fear of being that way in front of others. Everyone gets nervous. Even the greatest actors, singers, they get nervous. It's just not letting that affect them. And, so it's the same case with anyone that's listening to this. Yeah, just, get pumped up for your songs. Love your songs. If you don't enjoy your songs, then, other people might, but that's going to be the exception. It's going to be hard for the majority of people to get into it if you don't even sound like you're into it. That doesn't mean try too hard either. That means just being relaxed, being cool, and memorizing your lyrics and delivering them the proper way that the song calls for. All right, that's today. I'll talk to you guys soon.